The message arrived at 7:43 p.m. No ringtone. No warning. Just a quiet vibration against my kitchen counter. Hannah, we had to make some tough cuts. Hope you understand. Love you. For a second I didn't breathe. I just stared at the screen waiting for the rest of it to load. A joke. A follow-up text. A just kidding. Nothing came. My name sat there in black letters, paired with the kind of sentence people use when they cancel dinner plans. Not when they erase their own sister from the biggest day of her life. Tough cuts. I read it again. And again. Each time it felt heavier. Sharper. Like the words were sinking in on purpose. I wasn't some distant cousin. I wasn't an old friend she'd lost touch with. I was her sister. The same sister who helped her move apartments 3 times, once in the middle of winter. The sister who covered her rent when she lost her job and swore she'd pay it back soon. The sister who sat on the bathroom floor with her at 2 in the morning, holding her hair while she cried over men who never deserved her. No. I wasn't worth a chair at her wedding. A laugh escaped my mouth, short, hollow, almost embarrassing. Because surely this had to be a mistake. My fingers moved before my pride could stop them. I called my mom. She picked up on the 3rd ring. Mom, I said, skipping every polite word, I just got a text from Charlotte. She says the guest list is finalized and I'm not on it. Is this a joke? There was a pause. Not the confused kind. The prepared kind. Oh, honey, she sighed, stretching the word like I was 5 years old and whining over spilled milk. It's just a wedding. Don't make a big deal out of it. Something in my chest tightened. Just a wedding? I repeated slowly. Mom, I'm her sister. I know, she said lightly. Too lightly. But she had to keep the guest list small. Small. I almost laughed again. Small. I said. She invited 150 people. I just saw the Instagram post. Well, you know how these things are, Mom replied, a little chuckle sneaking into her voice. Weddings are expensive. Maybe she thought you wouldn't mind skipping this one. Wouldn't mind. That phrase hit harder than the text. Wouldn't mind. After everything I'd done. After every late-night phone call. Every emergency I fixed. Every time I put her problems ahead of my own life. And now I was expected to smile and step aside quietly. You're overreacting, Mom added, her tone sharpening. It's one day. Overreacting. I knew this script. I'd lived it my whole life. I push back. They dismiss. Charlotte apologizes later. And I forgive, because that's what I always do. But something shifted right then. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a clean, silent break. If I'm not important enough to be invited, I said flatly, then I won't be important enough to fix things later. Hannah. I have to go. I hung up before she could finish. The apartment felt unusually quiet after that. I set my phone down and stared at it, waiting for the sadness to fully take over. Instead, something else crept in. Clarity. If I wasn't welcome at her wedding, I didn't have to sit around pretending it didn't hurt. I didn't have to show up for people who clearly didn't show up for me. I opened my laptop. 5 minutes later, I was staring at photos of white sand beaches and water so blue it didn't look real. Caribbean resorts. Private balconies. Infinity pools stretching into the ocean. I'd always told myself a trip like this was irresponsible. Too expensive. Too indulgent. But suddenly it didn't feel like a vacation. It felt like justice. If Charlotte was going to have the happiest day of her life without me, I was going to have the best week of mine without them. My cursor hovered over one listing. Luxury resort. Oceanfront suite. Private balcony. Full spa access. Personal butler. The price made my stomach flip. Then I thought about the text again. Tough cuts. I clicked book now. First class flight. Window seat. Extra legroom. I didn't hesitate. As the confirmation email landed in my inbox, something lifted off my chest. A weight I didn't even realize I'd been carrying. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't running away. This was me finally choosing myself. And I had no idea that while I was packing breezy dresses and sunscreen, their picture-perfect wedding was already starting to crack. By the next morning, my suitcase lay open on the bed like it was waiting for permission. I didn't hesitate. I packed light but intentional. Breezy dresses that moved when I walked. Swimsuits I'd bought once and never worn because there was always some reason to stay home. A wide-brimmed hat I'd always thought was too much. Today too much felt exactly right. As I zipped the bag shut, my phone buzzed again. I didn't answer. Not because I was angry, but because for once I didn't feel the urge to explain myself. 2 days later, while Charlotte was probably obsessing over seating charts and flower arrangements, I was standing in an airport terminal with an overpriced latte in my hand and a boarding pass that read first class. The irony wasn't lost on me. I found my seat, stretched my legs out, and felt something dangerously close to joy settle into my chest. The flight attendant handed me a glass of champagne before we even took off. I raised it slightly, not to anyone in particular. When the plane lifted into the sky, the city shrinking beneath us, I snapped a photo. My legs stretched out. Champagne glass glowing in the cabin light. Clouds rolling past the window. Caption: cut from the list but still living large. I hit post. The likes came fast. Faster than I expected. Cousin Megan sent a laughing emoji. My college friend texted, "Yes. This is the energy." Even my aunt commented, "Good for you." I smiled. Not because I needed the validation, but because for once the story wasn't being controlled by my family. Somewhere over the Atlantic, my phone buzzed again. "Mom, where are you?" I locked my screen. Let them wonder. When I landed, a sleek black SUV was waiting at the curb. The driver opened the door and handed me a chilled towel like I was someone important. Like I mattered. The drive hugged the coastline, water stretching endlessly beside us. The air smelled like salt and flowers I couldn't name. I rolled the window down just enough to feel it on my skin. The resort rose out of the landscape like something unreal. Towering palms, open-air lobby, the ocean visible from everywhere. My room? Perfect. White linen sheets. Floor-to-ceiling glass. A balcony that looked straight out over turquoise water that shimmered like it was alive. I stepped outside and just stood there. No noise. No expectations. No one asking me to fix anything. That night I slept better than I had in years. The morning of Charlotte's wedding arrived wrapped in sunlight and the sound of waves. I woke slowly, no alarm screaming me into responsibility. My phone sat face down on the nightstand, silent. Room service arrived with pancakes, fresh fruit, and coffee so smooth it felt criminal. I carried the tray out onto the balcony, toes brushing warm wood, eyes locked on the horizon. Back home I imagined the chaos. Charlotte snapping at her bridesmaids. My mom hovering, correcting, stressing. Someone panicking because something had gone wrong, because something always did. I took a sip of coffee. It tasted better knowing I wasn't there. By mid-morning I was stretched out beside the infinity pool, martini sweating in my hand. I posted another photo. Sunglasses on. Ocean behind me. Skin warm from the sun. Caption: turns out I'm allergic to wedding drama. The comments poured in. You're glowing. I want your life. Is there room in your suitcase? The attention wasn't the point, but it didn't hurt. Around noon I walked down to the beach. The sand was warm, soft, forgiving. The water kissed my knees as a steel drum band played somewhere nearby. For the first time in years I felt like the main character in my own life. Then my phone buzzed. Are you really missing your sister's wedding for this? You're being petty. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I lifted my phone, snapped a photo of the view, white sand, turquoise water, cocktail in hand, and sent it back. No caption. I turned my phone to do not disturb. Justice doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks peaceful. That afternoon I booked a spa treatment, hot stone massage, followed by a facial I didn't know I needed. As the warmth spread across my back, a realization settled in, slow and certain. I didn't miss home. Not even a little. By sunset, my skin still warm, hair loose, I poured myself a glass of wine and stepped into my suite. That's when my phone lit up. Over and over. Like something was wrong. Charlotte. Cousin Evan. Uncle Ray. My smile faded. I picked up the phone. The first message was from Mom. Call me. It's an emergency. I scoffed. Everything was an emergency, when it affected them. Then another message. Evan, you're not going to believe this. Call me. Then Charlotte. Where are you? I need you. Need me. The word made me laugh out loud. 2 weeks ago I didn't deserve a seat. Now I was suddenly essential. I opened Evan's message. The groom left. I froze. Left? I typed back, hands steady. What do you mean, left? His reply came instantly. Big fight during the reception. He walked out. Gone. No one knows where he is. I leaned back against the balcony door, wine glass still in my hand. Somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered, "You shouldn't enjoy this." But another voice, stronger, clearer, answered back. "This is what happens when you cut the wrong person." And I had a feeling. This was only the beginning.
For a long moment, I just stared at Evan's message. The groom left. The words didn't make sense at first. They felt unfinished, like half a sentence someone forgot to explain. Left how? I imagine him stepping outside to cool off. A cigarette. A deep breath. Maybe someone chasing after him. But Evan's next message erased that illusion. Full meltdown. Big fight during the reception. He walked out. Didn't take his jacket. Just gone. I sat down slowly, the edge of the bed pressing into the back of my legs. Outside, the ocean kept rolling and like nothing in the world had changed. Somewhere inside me, a small voice whispered, "This is bad. You should call them." But another voice, one I'd ignored my whole life, spoke louder. "This isn't yours to fix." My phone kept buzzing. "Uncle Ray, this is a disaster." "Mom, call me right now." "Charlotte, please. I need your help." Help. The word burned. 2 weeks ago, I was expendable. Now I was suddenly the emergency contact. I didn't respond. Instead, I poured myself another glass of wine and stepped onto the balcony. The sky was deepening into shades of pink and gold, the sun sinking like it had nothing to prove. Then Evan messaged again. "You want details?" I typed back one word. "Yes." The replies came fast, like he'd been waiting for someone to listen. Apparently, during the reception, Charlotte cornered him. No one knew exactly about what: money, control, something from the past. Voices were raised. Guests stared. Music awkwardly faded. Then he yelled. She yelled back. And just like that, he walked out the front doors of the venue and never came back. No dramatic speech. No goodbye. Just silence. I closed my eyes and exhaled slowly. Somewhere across the ocean, Charlotte was standing in a wedding dress, surrounded by people, but completely alone. More messages rolled in. Dad and Uncle Ray got into a screaming match over family reputation. Grandma cried so hard they had to sit her down in another room. The bar was cut early because guests started fighting. It didn't sound like a wedding. It sounded like chaos. Charlotte texted again. "Please pick up. I need you." I stared at her name on the screen for a long time. The old me would have called immediately, would have soothed, would have patched things together while swallowing her own hurt. But that version of me was sitting on a beach thousands of miles away. I didn't answer. Instead, I took a photo. My wine glass. The ocean at dusk. The sky painted in soft blues and golds. Caption: busy enjoying my overreaction. I posted it. Then I placed my phone face down and let the breeze brush my skin. That night, I slept like someone who didn't owe anyone anything. The next morning, I woke to sunlight and the sound of waves, gentle, steady, unbothered. For one perfect moment, I forgot about everything. Then my phone buzzed. Not Mom. Not Charlotte. Melissa. Melissa was the only cousin I trusted. She didn't exaggerate. Didn't play sides. If she was calling, it meant something had gone very wrong or very right. Her text read, "Okay, I know you're ignoring everyone, but you have to hear this. Call me." I smiled. I called. She picked up on the first ring. "Oh my God," she said, breathless. "Are you sitting down?" "I'm lying down in a luxury suite overlooking the ocean," I said. "Go ahead." She laughed. "Okay. So you know the groom walked out?" "Yeah." "It gets worse." Apparently, after he left, Dad and Uncle Ray started yelling in the middle of the dance floor. Guests were recording. The DJ turned the music down to try to calm things. Aunt Linda cried. Grandma blamed the whole disaster on Charlotte for not inviting me. I sat up. "Grandma said that?" "Oh yeah," Melissa said. "Right in front of everyone." She said, "If you treated your family better, you wouldn't be alone in your wedding dress." I clapped a hand over my mouth, trying not to laugh. "That's poetic." "Oh, it keeps going," Melissa continued. "Mom overheard Aunt Lisa, agreeing with Grandma. They started fighting, like shouting. Meanwhile, Charlotte's in the bridal suite throwing things. Flowers. Champagne glasses. At her bridesmaids. The image was so absurd I had to put my coffee down. And then, Melissa said, lowering her voice, your mom tried to call the groom's mother to smooth things over. I raised an eyebrow. And she told her, this is your problem now, and hung up. I leaned back against the headboard, smiling wide. So let me get this straight, I said. The same people who made sure I wasn't invited are now blaming me for not being there to save the day? Exactly, Melissa laughed. They're saying if you'd been there, you would have fixed everything. Like you always do. I took a slow sip of coffee. Melissa, I said calmly, do you know the best part of all this? What? I don't care. She laughed so hard, she had to catch her breath. God, I love you. We hung up, and I stepped onto the balcony. Below me, the ocean sparkled in the morning light, unbothered, unstoppable. Somewhere back home, my family was scrambling through the wreckage of a day they'd tried to build without me. And me? I was finally learning what justice felt like. Quiet, warm, and completely deserved. By the fourth morning, I was completely untethered. No alarms. No panicked messages. No family emergencies waiting to be solved. Melissa's texts kept me updated in small doses, little gems from the front lines. But she knew better than to overwhelm me. Charlotte is trying to organize a makeup ceremony. Half the family says no. Aunt Linda says she's still hungover. I laughed out loud, the sound echoing against the glass doors of my balcony. Poetic justice, I thought. For years, I had been the one called to clean up after everyone else's messes. Lost keys, heartbreaks, missed deadlines, rent payments. I was the fixer, the invisible hero, the sister who always put others first. Not anymore. I took a long sip of my coffee, letting the warmth fill me. The sun glinted on the waves below, the color of turquoise and gold, and it felt like a reward I'd earned. Later that afternoon, while Charlotte was probably panicking over how to glue together her perfect day, I wandered into the resort spa. Sea salt scrubs, aromatherapy massages, facials, treatments I hadn't even known existed. My skin, my muscles, my mind, they all breathed in relief, as though decades of expectation had been scrubbed away along with the dead skin cells. I could feel the old me, the one who answered every call, who patched every fight, who held everyone else's happiness above her own, fade like smoke in the warm air. When I emerged, glowing and weightless, I checked my phone. Melissa had sent another message. Heads up. Your mom is trying to gather the family for a discussion when you get back. I smirked. Family discussion. Code for, we're going to guilt you into fixing our mess. I typed back casually. Thanks for the warning. I won't be there. Melissa's reply was instant. Wait, what? I'm extending my trip, I wrote. She gasped through the screen. I could tell. That's iconic. Tell me everything when you get back. I leaned back on my lounger, letting the cabana shades stretch across my face. The confirmation email dinged in my inbox. Another week. Another stretch of pure, unbroken freedom. I closed my laptop, sipped my cocktail, and let the words sink in. I'm not going back to their emergencies. Not this time. Not ever. The following morning, I woke to waves lapping the shore and a sky so clear it hurt your eyes to look at it. No frantic texts, no pleading messages, just calm. And a thought that made me smile. I finally get to decide my own story. Breakfast arrived on the balcony. Fresh croissants, tropical fruit, and coffee that smelled like freedom. I watched the ocean ripple beneath me, the horizon glowing, and for the first time in my adult life, I didn't owe anyone a single thing. Melissa called again. You won't believe this, she said, breathless. Mom tried the ambush. I laughed, the sound spilling out like champagne bubbles. Ambush. Yes. She gathered the family, ready to guilt trip you the second you got back. Charlotte was pacing. They were planning speeches. A whole operation to make you feel bad. I raised an eyebrow. And Melissa laughed. They couldn't reach you. You weren't there. You're literally untouchable. I leaned back, letting the warmth of the sun fill me, and whispered, "Not my circus. Not my monkeys." By mid-afternoon, I had already taken 2 swims, lounged under a shaded cabana, and indulged in a frozen cocktail with a tiny umbrella sticking out of it. I scrolled through my vacation photos, picking the perfect one to post. Turquoise waves, golden sand, sun-kissed skin. A smile I hadn't allowed myself in years. Caption: "Peace looks good on me." The likes poured in, friends cheering, old acquaintances sending heart emojis. But this time I didn't post for them. I posted for me. For the first time, I wasn't seeking approval. I was simply claiming joy that had always been mine. Quietly, defiantly. The sun dipped low over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of coral and violet. I sipped my final cocktail of the day, bare feet in the sand, hair messy from the wind, and realized something. I didn't miss them. Not Charlotte. Not Mom. Not the chaos of their drama. What I missed, if anything, was the version of me who used to believe that fixing everyone else's mess was some kind of virtue. That Hannah was gone. I was free. And they had their wedding. A disaster they had created themselves. I had my life. A week of sun, sea, and self-determined peace. Somewhere across the ocean, my phone buzzed with another message from Melissa. "Charlotte just found out you extended your trip. She's furious. Mom is pacing. Dad says, good for her. Grandma now says the wedding was cursed because you weren't there." I laughed so hard, I had to set down my drink. Yes, I thought. Yes, this is exactly what justice looks like. And for the first time in years, I felt it fully. The world can burn around you, and you can still be unshakably at peace. By the 5th day, I had fully slipped into my own world. No alarm clocks. No urgent texts. No family expectations. The ocean stretched endlessly before me, turquoise and glittering, and I realized something I hadn't admitted in years. I was finally free. Melissa's texts kept me updated, tiny morsels of chaos from the battlefield I had left behind. Charlotte is still screaming. Mom is pacing. Dad says you made the right choice. I laughed into my coffee. Finally, someone agreed with me. Later, I took a sunset cruise. The sky burned in oranges and purples, the water reflecting every shade like it was alive. I stood at the rail, hair whipping around my face, cocktail in hand, feeling the weight of years of expectation slip off me like the tide washing the shore. Somewhere back home, my family was spiraling, desperately trying to patch together a wedding that had fallen apart without me. Meanwhile, I had the highest seat in the house. Peace, beauty, and the quiet satisfaction of watching karma do its work. Melissa called me that evening. Her voice was shaky with laughter. "Okay," she said, breathless. "You have to hear this. Charlotte is in the bridal suite throwing a full-on tantrum. Flowers. Champagne. Invitations. Everything. She's pacing, yelling at the caterer. Guests are filming it for Instagram. It's historic." I grinned. And my family? Are they still blaming me? Oh, absolutely. Grandma is insisting it's all your fault. Aunt Linda says you would have saved the day. Mom's frantically trying to fix everything. I tilted my head back, letting the sun sink low over the horizon. "Let them," I whispered. "I've done my part. Years of fixing their messes. They can do it themselves now." Melissa laughed, almost crying. "Hannah, it's glorious. Everyone's realizing just how much you did for them all these years." I smiled, the ocean breeze brushing my skin. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty. Not a shred. Not even a twinge. The next morning, I woke to sunlight spilling through the balcony doors and the soft sound of waves. I lingered in bed, sipping coffee, letting the warmth fill me. The world back home could implode. I didn't care. I had booked a private cabana by the infinity pool. For breakfast, I had mango smoothies, fresh pastries, and fruit that tasted like sunshine. No one called me. No one demanded anything. Just me. I scrolled through my vacation photos and picked the perfect one for Instagram. Ocean behind me. Sunlight on my skin. A smile that hadn't existed for years. Caption: Peace looks good on me. I posted it. The likes poured in. Friends cheering. Old acquaintances sending heart emojis. But this time, I didn't post for them. I posted for me. And for the first time, it felt enough. By afternoon, I had 2 mimosas under my belt and a swim in the infinity pool. The warm water lapped my skin, and I realized something profound. I didn't miss the drama. Not Charlotte. Not Mom. Not even Dad, pacing around trying to fix things I had refused to touch. I missed the old me, the girl who believed her worth was measured by how much she gave, but she was gone. And in her place was someone lighter. Someone stronger. Someone who finally understood that sometimes justice isn't about confrontation. It's about walking away. Melissa's voice buzzed one last time before I switched my phone to Do Not Disturb. Charlotte is furious. Mom's pacing. Dad says, good for her. Grandma thinks the wedding is cursed because you weren't there. I laughed so hard I almost spilled my drink. Yes, I thought.
Exactly.
That night, I sat barefoot on the balcony, a glass of champagne in hand, the ocean stretching endlessly before me. The sky melted into coral and gold. Below, somewhere across the ocean, my family was still trying to glue together Charlotte's perfect day.
Me?
I had my perfect week, my perfect freedom. I raised my glass to the horizon, smiling. No guilt, no tension, no last-minute emergencies. Just the sound of the waves, the salt in the air, the knowledge that I had finally stepped out of a role I never chose. Charlotte's wedding had fallen apart without me. My life, finally, had never felt more whole. I took a slow sip, savoring every second. 0 regrets. The ocean rolled in like applause. And for the first time in years, it felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be.